Alas, the Flat Earth Fail compilations are coming to an end. I've decided to finish the series on episode 50, a nice round number. But do not worry, we still have one more episode to go before that final one. This, of course, is the Flat Earth Fail compilation, episode 49. Hello all and welcome along to another episode of Flat Earth Friday with me, Simon Dan. Thank you very much for joining me. Before we begin today, a huge thank you to the sponsors of today's video, Ground News. So, as you all know, the Flat Earth Fail compilations are short, tiny videos of flat earthers not understanding anything about science. They seem to find it hard to be objective and balanced, much like today's media. The coverage is usually anything but. It's hard to know how legitimate a source is, who funds them, or if they have editorial bias, hidden agendas, or conflicts of interest. This is where Ground News comes in, a website and app created by former NASA engineer Harleen Kaur to help you get multiple perspectives in one place with context about the source of the information. Their mission is to bring transparency to the media and offer you both sides of the story by providing you with the right tools to navigate the media landscape. Now, as many of you know, India recently landed on the moon. And in today's video, Eric Debate is actually going to try and refute that. But I bet you didn't know they also have recently launched a mission to the sun. Now look how Ground News tackles bias in the media. They show a bias rating and factuality score for every single story. Here, you can see the factuality is 64% high. The factuality score takes into consideration things like the credibility of sources used, the speed of which corrections are made, and whether language retains context. You can then compare headlines with convenient tags beside every source to show you the factuality and how reliable they are. And you can see the bias distribution too, with 40% of the sources here being from the centre. Now, ratings are generated using 3 independent news monitoring organisations which have their own methodology, like including editorial reviews, blind bias surveys, independent reviews and third-party research. Go to ground.news/Simon to stay fully informed on breaking news and avoid media bias. Sign up or subscribe through my link before the 5th of October 2023 for 30% off unlimited access to see how all sides are reporting. Right, back to today's video, which as you all know is the Flat Earth Fail compilation 49. And I've got 4 beauties for you today. And of course we start with the infamous Eric Debate asking if India really did land on the moon. Away we go.
Last week, the Indian Space Agency allegedly landed an unmanned spacecraft and rolled out a rover onto the south pole of the moon. As usual, however, nearly 99% of the footage shown of this groundbreaking event was clear, obvious, and very poor CGI.
Well, yes, it is clearly fake, but it wasn't trying to be real. It was designed to show people how the lander was doing, that is all. To think that India are trying to pass that off as real is laughable on your part, Eric.
Why do you suppose NASA, Roscosmos, the Chinese, Indian, and all other world space agencies spend money creating and airtime broadcasting all these computer graphic animations of their expeditions, rather than showing us actual video footage?
They don't do that. They do show us footage from missions.
How difficult would it be to have a few cameras on these crafts permanently recording different angles of the entire flight for us?
Yeah, SpaceX did that and you all cried fake. What else are we supposed to do?
They allegedly succeeded in having a live telephone conversation between Nixon and astronauts on the moon, broadcast on television over 50 years ago. But with half a century of technological advancement, we still cannot receive live video from these rockets after only a couple minutes of ascent.
So the constant live feed from the ISS not enough for you then, Eric, no?
They always change from live video for the first couple minutes to nothing but CGI for the rest of the journey. Look at these ridiculous cartoon animations and ask yourself, why can't the public just watch the actual live video of the entire journey?
Again, because you would cry fake. But the moon missions, for example, it would be extremely silly and expensive to send up a second rocket just to film the first one.
Even if only to be recorded and released at a later date, why aren't the public shown unedited video footage from multiple angles of the entire flight duration? Never once has any space mission in history been so transparent as to show full unedited footage of their whole expedition. Instead, what we always get is what India's space agency has just given us. A bunch of grown men and women fervently yelling and applauding over pre-made cartoons broadcast as live video.
Now, the Indian lunar lander did send back a series of real images as it was descending onto the surface. And there is footage of the rover exiting the lander too.
The still shots we are given from the Chandrayaan-3 are of two varieties. First, we have the overly produced, clearly photoshopped, full-color propaganda pieces, like these, which are shown repeatedly alongside claims of India's successful moon landing, without making it explicitly clear that these images were all created by artists long before the mission even started.
But it's obvious, Eric. Come on, everyone can see that they're not real photos.
The second type of still shot we are given are poor quality black and white shots of dirt and a dark background, claimed to be taken on the moon, but are impossible to differentiate from a sandlot or movie set on Earth.
And yet you claim that you asked for live video feeds of the missions. You'll say exact same thing about those as well. You'll cry fake.
Likewise, the short clips of video footage they tease the public with as being authentic are simply 15-second videos of some lander legs approaching a gray background and the rover rolling down a ramp onto some dirt somewhere. Look at the terrible frame rate and artificial appearance of the supposed moon.
The frame rate is terrible because it's not a proper video. It's just a series of images stitched together. I know that is a video, but you know what I mean. So this is the thing, Eric. You don't understand enough about stuff to comment on it. I've had enough of this personal incredulity-fueled drivel. Let's move on to our next video today. And it's from Flatty McFlatface, who's showing off a David Weiss video. Dear, oh dear.
So let's think about this experiment. We have a glass box, a fish tank, if you will, and we put it on the ground and we seal it. It's completely sealed off all six sides. Okay. And we have a little trap door on the top of it that's closed. Okay. And it's just filled with just the air from the room. Then we get another one and we stack it right on top of it and we suck out 10% of the air. So it's only got 90% of the regular air pressure. And it's got a little trap door on the bottom and one on the top, and they're closed. And then we put one on top of that has 80%, 70, 60, 50, all the way up to the top one is a vacuum. And they're all sealed together. Now, what happens when I press the remote and all of those trap doors open?
Now the air will mix together and spread evenly through all of them.
What happens? Well, you know what happens. The air in the bottom shoots up to the top and the entire thing equalizes. Okay? Why didn't gravity hold that air down?
Because it's a tiny box of air, David, that weighs almost nothing. The fact you're trying to compare this little setup to the atmosphere is quite simply hilarious.
Now that's
because
an
the mass
experiment.
wasn't significant.
What's that?
I believe the mass is not going to be significant.
The mass of what? The mass of what?
Whatever the shoe box or whatever you're
Well,
talking
no,
about. Whatever's holding the air.
It's a box. Whether it's a 10-gallon fish tank size or each box is the size of an Amazon warehouse. Okay, well, hold on. I just want to make sure you understand. When we open up all those connections, all of the air will shoot up and fill the void until it's equalized. Okay. Now we're closer to Earth. The gravity's stronger. Why didn't it hold the gravity down? In your world of gravity holding air down, I could hold a shoebox and I could suck all the air out of this room and the air in the shoebox would stay in the box because gravity's holding it in. But you know that won't happen. Air fills the available space equally.
That was a staggering example of how not to understand gravity. The atmosphere of Earth weighs around 5.5 quadrillion tons. The Earth weighs around 6 billion trillion tons. Now that is two pretty big masses. So that means that the weight of the atmosphere caused by gravity provides atmospheric pressure. The air in the boxes for your little experiment, even if it was the size of an Amazon warehouse, would not have enough air in it for it to work how you want it to. Right, moving on, and the next video comes from the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon and Zodiac app channel. And they think moonlight disproves Eratosthenes. Here we go.
The Eratosthenes shadow experiment is used as a proof that the Earth is a globe. But moonlight creates the exact same shadows as the sun, which completely disproves this experiment.
How does it? The moon and the sun have similar angular sizes, so they will produce similar shadows, won't they? Despite the fact that, of course, the moon's light is nothing but reflected sunlight.
But before going into more detail about this, I will briefly explain Eratosthenes' experiment for those who may not know about it or forgot what it was. Eratosthenes noticed that at the same time on Earth, shadows are of different lengths and angles, depending on where you are on Earth. He then wondered how this was possible, and ultimately deduced that this is only possible if the sun's light comes parallel to the Earth, and the Earth is a curved surface, as shown in the diagram. However, the sun's light can only be assumed to be parallel because the sun is claimed to be 109 times larger than the Earth. But this then creates a paradox, because the moon also casts the exact same shadows as the sun, and yet the moon is only supposed to be a quarter the size of the Earth.
I've already explained similar angular sizes.
The problem is, if the moon's light is assumed to be parallel, then it would only illuminate a small portion of the Earth. But we know that this is false. Half of the Earth is supposed to be able to see the moon at any given time when the moon is illuminated, and so half of the Earth should also be illuminated by the moon. But by assuming parallel light from the moon, half of the Earth would not be illuminated by the moon. So the moon's light cannot be parallel, but it has to be if the sun's light is supposed to be parallel, because they both must create the same shadows.
I don't think I need to say much more than this. Now, the sun's light reflects off the moon, and that is what we know causes the moon to shine. And while the light from each is not technically parallel, it's close enough to parallel that we can call it parallel. Therefore, they both cast similar shadows. Right, on to our last video today, which is from John the Revelator. Take it away, my friend.
Okay, so I'm just going to lend some credence to the flat earth theory, but I'm not a flat earther, okay?
Okay, fair enough. Let's hear it then.
Now look, from a north view, since the planet is fluid in motion, or in nature because it's, well, liquid mainly, and it's got a mantle and iron and molten rock, water within the planet, it's a fluid. It's like a magmatic, plasmatic form. So the Earth spinning is going to sling it out with some angular momentum. That's also because it's similar to like a torque converter, really. It's a hydraulic system. So whenever it spins, this in here, which would be analogous to a clutch plate, would press in and literally would create what would look like a wall that goes all the way around, because there is what is a hole. And I believe that's what they see as the dark sun or whatever it is, or even the hollow earth theory, because this hole here is going to be several miles deep. It's really probably as deep as, or at least twice as deep as the Marianas Trench.
Yeah, the problem is there isn't a hole there. And Earth is not an inflatable beach ball.
And it spins and it flings it out in this manner, and then a torus field helps form. And you can see where my thumbs, when I poke in like this, you can see where the North Pole and the South Pole, at the core there would be a torus, like a hydraulic system of molten iron and radiation, essentially, and other, constituents. And if I was a globetrotter, I'd be good at this. But ultimately, 1,000 miles per hour for this water is pretty fast. So that's what gives us waves and stuff like that.
It absolutely is not. You can think wind for that one.
But ultimately, that's really, really slow on a cosmic scale. It's just enough variation. It's just enough to give variation to the planet. And variation lends ecosystems and derives many life forms and such like that. And from the top view, you can see how it kind of flays it out. Now, it doesn't flay it all out, but it does flay it out somewhat from the north. And all that is a different perspective, because space is pretty much infinite perspective. You can get infinite perspective because it's multidimensional. It's infinite It's got infinite dimensions to it. It's spatially infinite. So ultimately, it's about angle at this point, relativity, perspective.
Is he saying that the Earth's spin sends continents away from the poles? He is, isn't he? Dear oh dear, you may not be a flat earther yet, but please don't repeat that theory again. Whew. Well, there we go. The penultimate episode of the Flat Earth Fail compilations is done and dusted, all complete. One more to go. Now, for the 50th and final episode of the Flat Earth Fail compilations, I'm going to ask all of you to help with that one. I want to see the best Flat Earth Fail videos you can find that are under 3 minutes. If you find one, send it to my email at simandan@gmail.com. And do not worry, this does not mean the end of Flat Earth Friday. This just is the end of the Flat Earth Fail compilations. So don't worry on that. The Friday videos will continue with Flat Earth as the topic. Thank you so much for watching. As always, it truly is appreciated. If you enjoyed it, please do subscribe to the channel. We're very close to that 500,000 subscribers now, less than 10,000 away. And of course, if you really enjoyed it, hit that thumbs up button too. Just enough time to once again thank Ground News for sponsoring today's video. Remember, go to ground.news/Simon to stay fully informed on breaking news and avoid media bias. And if you sign up or subscribe through my link before the 5th of October 2023, you will get 30% off unlimited access. I've been Simon Dan. Have yourselves a great weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday for the return of Standing for Truth. See you then.